Welcome to a special Crawley Town episode of the Gull-Mouth Action podcast, where we will take a look at all the latest goings on at the Broadfield Stadium. I'm Matt Poll, and this week I'm joined by Crawley Town experts Mark Dunford and Sam Morton. Kamari Doyle's first half goal gave Scott Lindsey a winning start on his return as Crawley manager as they beat fellow strugglers Bristol Rovers on Saturday. We'll look back at that fantastic win over the Pirates, plus we'll bring you the latest injury news as the Reds gear up to take on Rotherham and Peterborough in League One this week. You can read all the stories we are talking about with videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And you can check out other great videos on shotstv.com and Treeview Channel 262. You may also be watching on Latest TV. So thank you very much for tuning in. But we will start late on Thursday night when Crawley Town appointed Lindsey as their manager for a second spell on a deal until June 2028. Safe to say not many people predicted his return to the Broadfield Stadium. Mark, yourself included. What was the general reaction and what was the board's reaction? I noticed you're donning a hat, especially for the occasion.
Yeah, because I stupidly said I would eat my hat if Scott Lindsey returned. It was just a massive surprise, wasn't it? Even during the day when Scott Lindsey was clear favourite with the bookies, there were plenty of people, including myself, was like, this isn't going to happen, surely. And there's one guy said he was going to get a tattoo on his leg of Preston Johnson's beard if Scott Lindsey came back. So we're looking forward to that happening. I imagine that's more likely as me actually eating this hat. But the reaction was great because it was midnight when it was announced. Luckily, I was up. I had a little bit of notice that something was happening. So I stayed up, got the story up, and the reaction was incredible. It was just the Messiah's coming home. Christmas has come early. I can't sleep now. Pinch me. Is this real? What a dream sort of thing. There were a few people that put on there about the negotiations must have been very interesting because obviously I've intimated before that I don't think the relationship between Scott and a couple of the owners was particularly good, but who knows what's going to happen there with that. But just an incredible turnaround, really. I mean, what was he? He left in September, became MK Dons manager in October, was sacked by MK Dons in March, beginning of March, and then end of March he's back. So within 6 months he's back as Crawley Town manager. So incredible, really. It shocked me. It shocked a lot of people, but ultimately very, very good news, I think, for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. No sooner had he got through the door, he was talking to our very own Mark Dunford, wasn't he? What did Lindsey have to say about his return, Mark? And overall, he was sounding like he was saying all the right things on his return.
He was, absolutely. Yeah. I just, our first question was the obvious question: how does it feel to be back? And he's just like, it just feels like home to me. And he was really pleased to get it done and get to work. And yeah, it's interesting because normally when you get a new manager in, you normally have they'll be sitting in the stands on the first game, let somebody oversee the next game. But he wanted to get straight to work. So he was familiarising himself with all the players straight away. And on Friday morning, he was in training at Three Bridges at the Jubilee ground. And he was absolutely buzzing. I don't think we've seen as much of Scott Lindsey's teeth as we did in that interview because he was just smiling so much all the way through. And it was just he wants the fans on side. He wants everybody at the club to get together. He just says the right things. He's a pro. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's saying. And he said all the right things in that first interview. And you felt, well, no, we're going to come on to Saturday, but the buzz you felt around the ground on Saturday, even beforehand, I got there about 2.5 hours before because I wanted to speak to some fans, and there were loads of fans there already. And they just, as soon as you said to them, can I talk to you about Scott Lindsey? Yes, please. Yeah. And they wanted to be on camera. And so it was really interesting just to see just the buzz, just that one bit of news has made for this club, because it was in the doldrums. It was all doom and gloom. But now there's that little bit of hope again, which is incredible, really.
Yeah, we'll come on to that a little bit later on the podcast. But obviously, it's been positive news on the pitch. But as a journalist, Mark, does it make it easier for you having Lindsey return, as in you already have that relationship with him, don't you? It's not kind of like a finding out period. Does it make your job easier that he's returned in a way that you know how it
does? Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, when he first came through because I met him at the tunnel in the ground when we first interviewed him. He gave me a massive hug, sort of thing. So it's like we've got a good relationship, and the fans have said to me before when I'm sitting there, he said, "Oh, I love your interviews with Scott. You've clearly got something between you," kind of thing. And it's Yeah, I mean, he knows I'm going to ask some tough questions at times, but he knows he can have a laugh with me. He knows he can trust me, and and I know I can get some good stuff out of him. I mean, Rob Elliott was great. Rob Elliott was lovely, really good to deal with. But I never felt I got over that barrier of journalist manager kind of thing. With Scott, it's slightly different. Still, there's that journalist barrier. There's things he won't tell me. There's things he will tell me, but it does feel good. And like you say, if you get a new manager in, if they've gone down the road of another brand new manager, it's another 4 or 5 months of getting to know someone, know what makes them tick, know what annoys them, and trying to work that out, what questions to ask at what times. I was still doing that with Rob Elliott. I mean, Rob Elliott was great. He answered every question I ever asked him. He never sort of balked or hit back at anything or questioned anything I said, but I never got those really amazing sound bites that you're going to get from Scott Lindsey. So hopefully there'll be more of that to come.
Yes, fingers crossed. Lindsey was set by MK Dons on the 2nd of March, Mark mentioned, after just 5 months in charge, having lost 11 of 16 matches and picking up only 9 points for a possible 48, which saw the Dons drop to 17th in the League Two table. On paper, Sam, it sounds like it wasn't a particularly great move for Lindsey, but what did he have to say about his time at MK Dons? And did he view the move to Buckinghamshire as maybe as a mistake in hindsight?
He didn't actually. At least that's not what he said in his interview about it, because he said his experience at MK Dons has made him a better manager, and he sees it as a big learning period. So no, he doesn't see it as a mistake. A big learning period for him. He had his reasons why he left Crawley, which he didn't want to discuss, but obviously it's in the past. He felt it was the right thing for him at the time. He asked if it was obviously questioned if it was the right in the long run, probably not. But he does think he's a better manager from it, and he reflects really well on his experience at MK Dons, and he hopes that it will make him a better manager going forward. So he said that probably didn't work out as well as he'd hoped, of course. But yeah, so I think it does sound like he's delighted to be back at Crawley with kind of another feather under his cap, a bit more experience. Obviously, MK Dons being a huge club and big stature, and obviously, as I say, it didn't work out for him, but he does seem to not have too many regrets, which is good, and obviously just great that he's back at Crawley where he belongs.
Absolutely. Mark, I'd be interested to know whether return to Crawley was always on the cards for Lindsey after his departure. Did he intimate as to whether he spoke to any other clubs before he decided to come back to the Broadfield Stadium?
Yeah, he did. He said he spoke to another club in League One, and he spoke to a club in League Two as well. And then once Rob Elliott had gone, they got in touch. Crawley, he said Crawley Town got in touch with him, and and he said it was a process that happened really quickly, and he just had to make a decision. And he said it was a really easy decision in the end of the day. Peter, and he said people say never go back to where you were successful, but I just don't read into any of that. I just feel at home here. I love this club. So yeah, I mean, even though it didn't work out at MK Dons, but you look at MK Dons' track record, they've got the massive stadium, massive budget, but they're just not successful. And you have to look at. They will have to look at themselves and say, we've got a manager like Scott Lindsey. Have we given him enough time? I mean, it was funny. Me and Scott were chatting. I don't think it was on camera. I think it was off camera about giving managers time, because if you look at the top, I think it was the top 7 in League Two this season. 2 of them have been in the job for just about a year, maybe less than a year. But the other 5 have been in the job for about 2 or 3 years. And he says it just shows you, give people time, they can build something. And I mean, Scott Lindsey built something incredible in a very short amount of time at Crawley in less than 2 years. But hopefully, because he's got a 3-year contract now, hopefully he can do the same, because we'll get on to whether they're going to stay up or go down. But if they go down, there's optimism now. And if he's given time, and we know he can do it in League Two with Crawley Town, and he should be able to do it again, but it's about giving players time. So I think probably MK Dons need to look at themselves and how what their ambitions are, because it just doesn't seem to work with any manager they bring in. So he's glad to be back. But I'm glad he chose Crawley Town and didn't go to this other League One or League Two club.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, Mark. I don't know what a manager is expected to do in 5 months in charge and then get in the boot. So, hopefully MK Dons' mistake is Crawley's gain. But off the pitch, tensions have been high between Red supporters and owners Wagner United. There are reports of a confrontation in the West End between a fan and sporting director Tobias Phoenix during the Cambridge game, while former supporters director Sam Jordan made revelations about Wagner's behind-the-scenes decision-making on a podcast. Mark, well, Lindsey can certainly make an impact with on-pitch developments. Is there a hope that his return will bridge the gap between the fans and the owners of what's been an incredibly fractious period for the club by their standards as well?
Yeah, and I think he sees it as his responsibility to do that as well. I said, do you feel like you've got to bridge that gap between the owners and the fans? And he said, yes, absolutely. But he knows as well as everyone else does, it's all about results. So what the main thing he can affect is what happens on the pitch. If he can win, then it's a massive. I mean, the appointment of Lindsey itself was a distraction, and everybody forgot about WAGMI on Saturday, didn't they? Yes. But yeah, if as long as he's winning on the pitch, everybody's just going to care about that, and they won't care, and they think, oh, the owners appointed Lindsey, oh great, and then everything's forgotten again. And it was we've discussed it so many times last year. You didn't hear from WAGMI, or you didn't hear any comments about WAGMI in that last 3 or 4 months because Crawley were winning. They got to Wembley and they won. Yes, it was all about Scott Lindsey, but I mean, nobody heard from WAGMI, and that's how everybody liked it. And I think hopefully that's what's going to happen again. So, but he knows. He said he's got to get his tactics spot on. He will make mistakes, but they've got to stay connected. Everybody at the club has got to stay connected, and the owners are a part of that. They're a big part of that, he said. So we need to bring everybody together, or I have to. So I'm sure he is going to really sort of bang that drum of just get behind everyone at the club, support the club, and then only positive things can happen from there.
Yeah, watch this space. We will take a short break now, but stay tuned as we will discuss Saturday's vital win over Bristol Rovers and preview Crawley's upcoming games against Rotherham and Peterborough, respectively. Welcome back to part 2, and Scott Lindsey crowned his Crawley Town return with a vital 1-0 win over Bristol Rovers at a rocking Broadfield Stadium on Saturday. His side went ahead in the 19th minute when a strong run from Russian Hepburn Murphy set up Kamari Doyle 12 yards from goal, and he finished past helpless goalkeeper Jed Ward.
Jed Ward, greatest name in the world. Jed Ward. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, it sounds like it was chalk and cheese from last week. What did you make of the performance?
Oh, it was just different. I know Sam's going to come on to how it was different, but they just on the attack from the front foot straight away. And in the first half, they probably should have been 3 or 4-0 up. Kamari Doyle scored a really good goal. I mean, but it was all about Rushan Hepburn Murphy's assist. If anyone hasn't seen that yet, incredible. I showed my son very quickly off topic the assist, and I said, "Look at this assist," and all he saw was the final pass. And he said, "Oh, it was a bit of a heavy touch from him, and the pass was a bit lucky." I said, "No, don't look at that bit. The bit where he got the ball on the blimmin' far side of the pitch, about in his own half, and then skipped past 3 or 4 people." Anyway, but yeah, it was a really good. And then I think it was minutes later, Doyle had another similar chance where he hit the side netting, and you just thought, "Oh God, 2-0, it would have just been absolutely rocking." But yeah, Lindsey, he got a brilliant welcome.
Yes, I mean, Dylan, I'm assuming it was a hero's welcome, wasn't it, Mr. Lindsey? No doubt.
Was. The anticipation for it, I could see all the photographers all lined up waiting for him to come out, people with their phones and everything, and there was a real buzz around the ground. And and Dylan, the pitch announcer, I've never heard him so enthusiastic when he was "Your hero has returned" sort of thing and all that, and he came out on the pitch. And you could tell Scott was emotional, and he said after the game that he was a little bit, he had to hold it back because he knew he had to focus on the game, kind of thing. But you could tell there was a lot of emotion there from him and everybody in the ground, and it was great. But it was, it was a really good performance. I mean, Bristol Rovers weren't very good, and they're obviously a team right on the decline. But Crawley took advantage of that, and it was good to get their new manager bounce in this game, particularly. So it was a good job Lindsey did get straight back into action rather than letting someone else do this game and then be ahead for the next things. But the atmosphere throughout the whole game was brilliant, and obviously the fist pump at the end with the celebrations was great. I skipped onto the pitch to film that close up, and it was intense, and you could feel everybody was just loving life at Crawley Town on Saturday.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned pictures. Great set of pictures from Natalie Mayhew that I saw online, Mark, I think, from the game.
Natalie was back, first game back for a while. So it was really good. I think she really wanted to be there for Scott's return. So, well done, Natalie. It was, some brilliant pictures. And hopefully, I think she's there for the next home game as well. So, hope so. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Great to have her back as well. Well, as we mentioned, Crawley's performance against the Gas was in stark contrast to their display at Huddersfield a week earlier, where they were thumped 5-1 in what proved to be Rob Elliott's final game in charge of the Reds. Sam, what was the main difference in the performance from last week, and what does a Scott Lindsey team look like compared to a Rob Elliott team? How is the setup different in your view?
Yeah, well, it was a funny one, obviously because Scott Lindsey didn't have much time to kind of get tactics sorted for the game. He was actually obviously there a day before, and then suddenly he's obviously in charge of a match. So I feel like a lot of it was probably down to the emotion and just the pure feel-good atmosphere that was in the stadium. That kind of transferred over to the players, really. And there was just a real kind of togetherness you just felt, and there was so much more intensity. They wanted to get up the pitch quicker. The formation wasn't actually too much different, but just crucially, the players seemed to just have much more belief, and they were actually exciting to watch again, which we haven't really been able to say this season. There's been some really, really dour performances and some real kind of hard to watch football at times, and obviously some dreadful results to come with that as well. But I just feel like there was just so much more belief in the players, really. They kind of had a purpose with their play. Especially obviously, as we mentioned, with Hepburn Murphy, he was everywhere, especially in that first half. And as mentioned, they were playing against the poor Bristol Rovers side that didn't offer much at all. But I just felt Crawley nullified any threats that they had. Really solid defensively. And just,
they looked more solid, didn't they? Yeah, they looked much more solid.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Yeah, and
the keeper made a difference as well, didn't he? I thought.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I feel like it was a really good performance, and they could have scored a few more goals. To be honest, you mentioned obviously that chance they had straight after the opening goal. Kamari Doyle could have had a brace in 2 minutes. But it was a really good performance, and the fact they were able to hold on to that 1-0 lead, because too often this season they've kind of collapsed after taking the lead, and obviously have ended up losing, but they never actually looked in danger of losing this one. So really positive, and hopefully they can continue this form, because obviously it's still a massive ask to avoid the drop.
Post-match, Lindsey was insisting that Crawley were more or less in a false position in the league, revealing he had told his players they were better than they believed they were. Do you agree with his comments, Mark? And what were the other main talking points from Lindsey's post-match interview?
Yeah, he just said he really enjoyed the game and just the whole day, basically. And I think it's going back to him just saying the right things. And like last year, the laws of attraction. You tell a team consistently and constantly that they're going to get to the playoffs, and they're going to get to the playoffs. And if you keep telling them they're going to win, they're going to win. And you sense that's what all he was saying was on the Friday and in the pre-match meeting. And that I imagine he was just saying, yeah, we're going to win. I can't believe you are where you are. So you're going to win. You're really good players. You're going to win. And it seems like he has instilled that belief. And he just said they were clear on the detail on how we wanted to play, and the players were excellent and went out and done it. I thought they were unlucky to not score more goals. And they could have come 2 or 3 up, like we just said. And he was just really proud of them. And he also sort of mentioned, because there was a little bit of a barrage at the end from Bristol Rovers getting balls into the box, desperate for them to get a goal. And he said afterwards that Charlie Barker needed some paracetamol afterwards for the amount of headers he won. So he was just, you could tell he was just really pleased with how the players responded. And he said, and that quote, he said, I can't believe they are where they are. He said, I'm confused why they are at the table, because they're such a good side. It was something that I asked him on the Friday, actually. I forgot to mention earlier that I said, does he think the squad is stronger than it was when he left the club in October or September? And he said, yes, he thinks it is. And we're going to come on to Liam Fraser in a minute. I think Sam's going to talk about him.
Yeah, the expert. He knows what he's on about.
Like players like him, because Liam Fraser was great on Saturday. He got man of the match. I think players like him, Kamari Doyle, who scored the winner, players he didn't have, they clearly strengthened that squad in his eyes. So, over to you.
Yes, well, speaking of Liam Fraser, what an excellent segue. He was named man of the match for his performance against Rovers, as Mark mentioned, and was full of praise for Lindsey at full time. Sam Morton, if anyone's going to know, it's going to be you. What did the Canadian international have to say about Lindsey and the win over Bristol Rovers in general in his post-match interview?
Yeah, so no, as you mentioned, Fraser was man of the match. He joined in the January transfer window, and he's obviously had not the easiest start. Obviously, with the form Crawley been in, it's been difficult to kind of adjust to the new team, and obviously been a lot of negativity around the club, which is never good to to have when you first at a new club, but with a real kind of feel-good atmosphere around. He really thrived in that kind of environment. He kind of really did control the game from midfield, really. And he says that his thinking aligns with Scott Lindsey, which is a really good sign as well. So he said they had a really good day of training to set us up for how they wanted to play and how they wanted to move forward. Obviously, all the lads are behind Scott, and they're just looking forward to building off this win to go into next week and continue this momentum. He thinks a lot of the guys played with him in the first spell with the club, so they kind of know what the expectations are from Scott. But for him, it's his first time, and he just is really looking forward to kind of playing under him, really, and kind of wants to kind of play consistent football and is just enjoying his time at Crawley so far. And it's it's really good to see. And I think he can be a real key part of any kind of success that Crawley can have. And then remaining a few weeks of the season, really, we kind of saw how important Liam Kelly was under Scott Lindsey and how pivotal he was. You kind of wonder if he can maybe take that mantle up as that kind of real key midfield man that can kind of unlock defences and that kind of thing. So yeah, really good performance. I've been really impressed, and the signs are positive.
Absolutely, yes. Well, the Reds battling first win in 9 games leaves them 9 points from safety. And the big question on everyone's lips is, can a rejuvenated Crawley Town under Scott Lindsey beat the drop? As things stand, Mark, how do you view things for the Reds in their bid to beat the drop?
It's still a big ask, isn't it? I mean, you look at Crawley's last few games. They've obviously got Rotherham away Saturday, which is going to be tough. But new manager bounce, Rotherham are quite inconsistent, so they could probably sneak something there. Home to Peterborough, who, if they played them a couple of months ago, might have done. But I was chatting to Alan Swan from the Peterborough Telegraph, one of our sister tiles, and he was saying they've got Poku back now, who was out for a while, and they've suddenly realised they're not too big to go down, so they've really upped their game recently. So that's going to be a tough game at home. And then Stevenage away, Leyton Orient at home. They're 2 very, very tough games. Birmingham away, and then the last 3 games: Exeter at home, Northampton at home, and then Shrewsbury away. They're 3 games that Crawley could realistically should get 9 points from. So it's tough. It's just whether it's those away games at Rotherham, Stevenage, and Birmingham. They're tough. Lindsay said that they needed to win 6 or 7 of their last 9 games, and they've won 1. So if they can get a win at Stevenage, Rotherham, or Birmingham, and I think Rotherham is probably their more realistic opportunity to do that this Saturday, then that's where I think they can win it. But it's a big ask, isn't it? I mean, it's probably the change came a little bit too late, and that's what a lot of the fans were saying.
Yeah,
that the Elliott decision came a little bit too late, but Bristol Rovers didn't look very good. You look at their fixtures. I mean, they've got Bolton away, they've got Birmingham at home, they've got Exeter City, they've got Wrexham away. You just wonder where they're getting their next one, because they did not look very good at all. They just look like a team even less confidence than Crawley did the previous week. So, if they can get a win against Rotherham, if they can pick up 3 points this Saturday at Rotherham, I really can see that just lifting everything. And then 3 points against Peterborough, and then it is just positivity all the way, isn't it? It's just, it's very exciting. And I didn't think at this point I'd be excited about Crawley Town's last few fixtures. Well,
no, we've been talking about them practically being dead and buried for weeks, haven't we, Sam? And Mark's kind of mentioned it there, and I was going to ask you this. It's great that Scott Lindsey's back, but have they kind of left it too late for him to work his magic?
They potentially have. I think it's obviously a big ask, and I think if he does keep Crawley in the league, it would be a bigger achievement than getting promoted. I think it would be absolutely incredible. We said in the previous podcast before Scott came back in, I think I was asked the question, could they stay up, and I just said no, it's not possible. But now Scott's back, and there's a little bit of positivity, and you kind of wonder, well, maybe they could. I mean, got to take one game at a time. They've started off perfectly, got the win against Bristol Rovers. They go to Rotherham, win that. Then you can just kind of keep that momentum. Like we saw it last season. We've got the momentum Crawley gained at the end of the season. You kind of felt they're going into every game knowing they'd win. And if they manage to do that, string some wins together, suddenly that gap will reduce. And as you say, as Mark said, Bristol Rovers are kind of looked really poor, and you wonder where their next win's going to come from. So the stars could align, and it's just about just doing your own business and getting as many points on the board as they possibly can. But I think it all comes from positivity, because I feel like there's so much kind of feel-good atmosphere at the club at the moment that can really kind of help them through it, and more so than tactics or anything like that, really. And it's just about kind of that shared goal, and everyone knows what the aim is. And with Scott back and all the fans are obviously buzzing about it, you never know, miracles can happen.
Yes,
I was just going to mention, because obviously Northampton are on the same points as Bristol Rovers, so their last games, they've got a slightly easier run in than the rest. But if they don't pick up results, Crawley have got them the penultimate game of the season, and then Shrewsbury at last game of the season. Northampton could be dragged into it as well. So, it's exciting. Yeah, I've got a buzz. I've caught the Lindsey buzz.
Well, if he keeps them up, he deserves the freedom of the town, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely,
it would be an absolute miracle if he keeps them up. But yes, as we mentioned, Crawley's League One survival bid continues with a trip to Steve Evans' Rotherham United this Saturday before a home clash with Peterborough United on Tuesday evening. Looking at the table, both sides mid-table, nothing to play for, Sam. I think the Reds should fancy their chances there, shouldn't they?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because obviously Rotherham are without a win in 3 games. Last time out, they lost 3-2 at home to Wycombe, which saw 3 stoppage time goals. So it's a very dramatic game. But they've actually only won 2 games since the start of February. So this one in particular is very much a game Crawley should be looking as winnable. I think, even though it's away from home, Rotherham, as I say, not in the best form, and obviously not really under any kind of relegation threat, really. So I feel like, that should be a game they should go and really kind of stake their claim and get another 3 points. Peterborough, though, as Mark mentioned earlier, are in much better form. They're unbeaten in 8 games in all competitions, 4 league wins, including that, and they beat Wrexham on penalties in the EFL Trophy. The last time out, they was very impressive. They beat Charlton 3-0 at home. That was revenge for their one and only defeat since the 11th of February, which was also against Charlton. So when you consider that form, it goes to show how bad they must have been before that to be as low as 15th.
They were threatened at one point. They were in relegation trouble.
And just obviously 9 points above the relegation zone still, with the same number of points between them and the relegation zone as Crawley have to make up to get out of it. So I think in that sense, Peterborough will be looking at this game as an important one as well. They've got to keep the momentum going, make sure there's no danger of any kind of complacency in terms of their form, and because they could very easily be dragged back into it just as easy as Crawley could kind of drag themselves out. So it's a really tough game, but Crawley obviously have to go there. Have to go obviously at home. Have to really be the team looking to assert themselves on it and to try and get the win. Obviously, I think a lot will depend on how things go at Rotherham, because I think if they get 2 wins in a row, then suddenly you're home against Peterborough, and they could get another really big win. So time will tell how it goes. But I thought, start with Rotherham, do 1 game at a time, and see how it goes.
Yes, absolutely. Before we move on to score predictions, Mark, very quickly, how do you see those 2 games?
Yeah, they're games that I think, like Sam says, with the Rotherham one, certainly it's a good time to play them. I think they've got nothing to play for. Although you've got the Steve Evans element, I think he's the only other manager in the conversation of Crawley's greatest ever manager for what he achieved at the club. So two Crawley legends in the dugouts on Saturday, and 2 fiery characters as well. So it could be interesting, especially Paul Rayner as well, the Steve Evans' assistant. So it could be interesting to watch. But Crawley have got to be looking at 6 points from these 2 games. You've got to win your home games now, and I mean, even 4 points would be a good return from these 2 games. I think, as long as they don't lose either, I think it's good, because if you lose 1 game, you just think that's it now. But you never know. But Scott Lindsey keeps saying it's achievable as long as it's achievable, and when it's not, it's not. That's what he said to me, and he's absolutely right. You just got to keep fighting till the very end, and under Lindsey, they will.
Yes, I will temper expectations a little bit, but I think we said it was a good time to play Huddersfield, wasn't it, when they played them? And that didn't end well. But different, isn't it, Lindsey and Elliott?
It was a better time to play Crawley than it was a good time to play.
Absolutely, yes. I fancy Crawley chances more at Rotherham. So, yes, speaking of which, score predictions, Mark, very quickly. Rotherham-Crawley, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go for a tight 1-0 win. I'm going to do what they did at Cambridge earlier in the season under Lindsey. And a late goal, a late winner. They'll keep it tight, and then they'll score a late winner.
Sam Morton, we're going to see dramatic scenes at Rotherham.
2-1 Crawley. Yeah, I think they're going to go to Rotherham and win this one.
And finally, Crawley v Peterborough. We'll start with you, Sam.
1-1. I think it'll be
1-1.
a tight game against, as I say, a team that are in form and will be looking to avoid any defeats themselves. So yeah, it'll be 1-1 draw.
Could Crawley be in a weird situation, Mark, where if they beat Rotherham, a draw against Peterborough might be viewed as a bit of a disappointment?
Yeah, they would. I think it would be. Yeah, I think it absolutely would be. My head says the same as Sam. I think it will be a draw, and it'll be a good draw and a good result. But if they beat Rotherham away and then get a draw, it'd just be like, oh, wouldn't it? It would just be. But I feel like I think 4 points would be a good return from these two games. But I'm going to go with my heart again. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win this time. Yeah.
2-1 win. I'll ask you this question again next episode of the podcast. Starting with you, Mark. Snap answer: will Crawley stay up?
No.
Sam?
Yes. You're going to do it.
Oh, Mr. Positivity. That's what I like to hear. Well, I'll ask you both that question next episode. But thank you very much for joining us as well, Mark and Sam, for this very special episode. You can catch up with all this latest sports news covering everything we've talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And you can watch more excellent videos on shotstv.com and Freeview channel 262. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and we will see you all next week.